Swadika, welcome to be my guest. I'm Cholapansa Narula. Thank you very much for joining us. Thailand's economy has been robust since last year, with projections of GDP growth at 4.3% for 2018. Today we'll take a look at the country's growth momentum looking ahead, especially with the government's 4.0 development policy and also the Eastern Economic Corridor project. And joining us today is Mr. Pisitpurpan, Senior Expert on Macroeconomic Policy, Fiscal Policy Office, Ministry of Finance. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
คุณพิสิทธิ์ thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
What's the latest data on Thailand's economic growth?
I think we see the gradual recovery of the Thai economy. I would like to say that when we look at the GDP in the first half of this year, Thai economy grew by 4.8%. So I think we can see the pickup from previous year. Last year GDP grew by 3.9%. I think we can expect that the total for this year, Ministry of Finance, we forecast that GDP would grow by about 4.5%. So I think we are moving to our potential growth that the policy maker, they would like to see Thailand growing at about 5% a year. And when we look at the 20 years national strategy that the government has in plan for the future of the country, we aim that the Thai economy should be growing at about 5 to 6% a year. So I think many things that the government is doing now trying to uplift the growth potential of the country.
What has been the main economic drivers in the past 3 quarters?
I think the main driver, I think when we look at in recent years for the Thai economy, the main driver has been coming from export of goods and services. So I think that is the main driver in recent years. So we see that export performance and tourism, especially foreign tourism, has been on the very strong growth. We have seen strong growth in tourism from the Chinese tourists. In terms of the revenue from foreign tourism to GDP, 10 years ago was only 6% of GDP. Now we see that foreign tourism now account for almost 12% of GDP. So we see a bigger role of export and tourism for Thailand. But I have to say that in recent quarters, especially this year, we can see that the growth is coming more from supporting by domestic demand. Mm-hmm. So actually private consumption is one of the strong growth in the first half of this year. So I think in the future we can have a more balanced growth in the export and balance with domestic demand coming from consumption and investment.
I see. But as for the exports and tourism, as you mentioned earlier, these have been some of the strongest sectors in the past. But looking into the future, would there be the main industry sustaining the momentum of growth, at least in 2019?
I think in 2019 we can expect more balanced growth for Thailand, especially in terms of the domestic demand. We can see that the farmer income starting to improve. In last year, farm income contracted. This year, we can see the strong farm production and the gradual recovery of farm prices. So the farmer income that we have monitored now turn positive figure in terms of the growth rate. So we can expect that to contribute to stronger private consumption. And next year, we can expect more investment, especially coming from the public investment. A lot of government policy, the EEC policy that now we see many investment promotion, investment application by the private investor in the EEC area. And also the government infrastructure project. I think if we drive around Bangkok today, we see that many mass transit trains are being constructed. So actually now we are starting to see the project getting implemented, and that will carry on to next year. That should have some positive benefit on the economy.
I see. So EEC is going to be something very instrumental in driving the Thai economy.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about the Eastern Economic Corridor?
EEC is one of the big government policy to promote investment in Thailand and promote production, upgrading the industry of Thailand. So if we look at the past 30 years, the eastern part of Thailand, the Bangkok, the Rayong, Chonburi, Chachoengsao, these are the main industrial base of the Thai economy. But now I think the world economy is moving fast. We need a new industry to catch up in the future. You know, when we're talking about the robotic industry, when we talk about the electronic vehicle, when we talk about smart electronic, medical hub, these are the new growth industry for the future. And the government policy is trying to move the country to this high growth sector in the future. So the EEC has, I think, two channel that we can promote development. One is through the private investment. So there are many incentives that the government is giving to the private investor to invest in the EEC area. For example, the extension of the BOI privilege when investor invest in the 10 target industry in the EEC area, and both non-tax and non-tax privileges. And also the Ministry of Finance, we also reduce the personal income tax for the foreign expatriate working in the EEC area, because I think we all know that in the future we need skilled labor, professional worker to come to Thailand and contribute to the economic development of the country. So how can we attract the skilled worker and professional worker? One of the way is through the incentive, tax incentive. So the ministry recently announced the 17% tax, personal income tax for the expat worker working in Thailand in the EEC area. So these are the incentives that we are hope to attract the private investor and professional worker coming to Thailand. On the second channel that we are promoting the EEC is through the public investment, that infrastructure investment. So the major project like the high-speed rail linking the three airports from Bangkok to Rayong, that is expected to be bidding in November. And the contract should be awarded by the beginning of next year. Another major program like the Utapao International Airport expansion, Lam Chabang Mataput Seaport expansion phase 3, double track railway linking the three seaports, MRO, which is we are aiming to be the aviation hub in Thailand.
The maintenance and repair and overhaul of the airplanes?
Yes, aircraft. So I think and last one, another major project is a digital park that we are setting up in Sriracha to promote the digital economy in Thailand. And we hope to attract the leading digital company to the digital park in Thailand. And these are the infrastructure that the government plan for the EEC program. And also the private investor, there are many applications to invest in the EEC area. So I think the policy will promote Thailand growth in the future.
So it's a flagship economic development project.
Yes.
And hopefully will transform Thailand. We'll now take a short break.
Yeah.
We'll be back, and of course we'll take a look at the targeted industry to see which are the rising ones and could produce imminent results. Stay with us. You're still with us on Be My Guest, and we are with Khun Pisik Phorpan, Senior Expert on Macroeconomic Policy of the Fiscal Policy Office, Ministry of Finance, where we're discussing about the Eastern Economic Corridor, which is a huge project. What about the investments? Where are the investments actually coming from? And since it's a colossal mega project, what's the time frame that we're expecting to see in terms of the results that Thailand will be seeing?
Yes, I think when we look at the latest data from BOI, the first half of this year, we have seen the investment application 280 billion baht, which is quite a substantial investment application for Thailand. And I think about 80% of that amount is for the 10 target industry. So I think the investors are quite keen to invest in Thailand, at least from according to the information in the first half of this year. And when we look into detail, we find that most of the application, the 280 billion baht, focus on the EEC area. So I think we can see the success of the policy to create, to induce the private investor to come to Thailand. I think almost half of the application aim for the EEC area. In terms of the industry, most of the application during the first half of the year focus on the petrochemical industry. So I think this is one of the leading industry that a lot of private investment are coming from. And also we can see the broad application for the automotive, the auto for the future industry, and also the electronic industry. And one thing that I would like to point out in the BOI application that we have seen is that a lot of time the project are not only foreign project now. Now most of the project that apply to the BOI application are joint venture between the Thai company and the foreign company. So actually I believe like 80% of the project apply now are joint venture project. So we can see that Thai company are also upgrading and partnering with the foreign companies to bring new technology to the country. And I think we can harness the benefit of new technology, new knowledge to develop the country.
Now, recently you went to London
Yes.
to present a number of policies, including the Eastern Economic Corridor project to investors. So tell us a bit about your trip and the sentiment from investors towards Thailand.
Yes, we went with 4 agencies, Ministry of Finance. Our role is we give the economic information, the policy, the government economic policy direction to at least for that, so that foreign investor in the Europe area, in UK, can know what Thailand has been doing and what we are planning for the future. We also have the second agency, the Eastern Economic Corridor Office, EEC office, to explain to investor in detail about the EEC policy and the progress and the future direction of the EEC. We also have the team from Export-Import Bank of Thailand to talk about the future export industry of Thailand and also the impact on the US-China trade war on Thailand. And lastly, we also have the representative from the FEDCO, which is the Capital Market Association of Thailand, to talk about the investment opportunity in the Thailand capital market, especially the stock exchange of Thailand. So I think these we are trying to cover the broad spectrum of different type of investor in UK and in Europe. And we all know that London is the financial center of the world. That I think if we can attract these investors to come to Thailand, I think that would really benefit the country.
So what are they actually looking for, to come to invest in our country? Have there been any particular requests or things they want to see?
I think the big company in UK and in Europe, they look for the policy direction of the country. They're quite interested in the EEC area, and they would like to know what the future policy for the EEC, which we give them detail, and they're quite confident now about the government investment plan that I mentioned earlier, the infrastructure project, and we talk about the opportunity and the incentive that the government give to the investor in the EEC area. So, and also in terms of the portfolio investor who invest in the stock market, they listen to the update on the Thailand capital market. And we also talk about, at that time, we also talk about Thailand Future Fund, which is now being subscribed now to the investor at the moment. So Thailand Future Fund is a alternative way for the government to finance infrastructure project. So actually now it's a government sponsored infrastructure project, and we use the revenue from the brownfield project, 2 expressway, Chalong Rat and Buraphawithi expressway, use the revenue from that to finance the new greenfield expressway project, additional 2 expressway project in Thailand. So I think you can see that the new it gives investor the opportunity to co-invest with the government in the infrastructure project in Thailand.
So Thailand is very ready at this point.
Yes.
What about Singapore? Because earlier in September, the Ministry of Finance, the officials, including your team, actually went to Singapore as well. You spoke to investors. What's the update?
In Singapore is also one of the major financial center in the region, and we went to Singapore to meet with investor as well. I think Singapore focus mainly on ASEAN investment. So I think it's at that time we are thinking whether we should go to Singapore or Hong Kong, and we learned that I think Singapore is more ASEAN-based investment. So we decided to go to Singapore, and there are many investors that are quite interested in Thailand, and especially our new policy to promote the 10 target industry. So these are the policy that Singaporean investor looking for the ASEAN investment opportunity look for Thailand.
All right, we'll now take another break right here. We will return with more questions, especially on the external issues that might impact the Thai economic growth. So stay with us. Welcome back. While the situation in Thailand looks steady, at least in the past year, looking to the near future, there are some external issues that might have implications on Thailand. We're seeing the rising trade war. We're seeing some of the tax reforms to be happening in the United States. Political uncertainty, just to name a few. So let's have a look at some of these things that are going on, which could possibly affect the country, beginning with the protectionist policies from the United States.
I think in terms of the trade war now, the direct impact on the Thai economy was only for the metal and the aluminum and dishwasher. The initial trade protectionist policy by the U.S. Government. So, but I think the impact, we in close coordination with the Ministry of Commerce, and we monitor the situation, and the impact I think it expect to be very quite small for Thailand. And when we look at the broader picture in terms of the trade protectionism in the US and China, I think the impact on Thailand should be quite small, because when we look at in terms of our trade structure, we quite diversify in our trade structure now. We don't rely on any one particular single market. So I think the biggest trading partner in Thailand, China, is account for 12% of market share, export market share. US account for 11% export market share, and we have Japan, Europe, and now we have more domestic regional trade with our neighbor country. So we have a quite diversified, and our product is also quite diversified. We rely on electronic, auto, agricultural product, agro industry product. So I think in terms of the direct impact, we have done some analysis, and we find that the negative impact should be quite minimal for Thailand, given the current situation in terms of the trade conflict at the moment. But also there could be some positive impact on Thailand even when there's a trade conflict between US and China. There could be trade diversion effect coming to Thailand. So maybe China will trade more with Thailand, or US trade more with Thailand. So I think when we try to look at the total impact, we have to quantify the negative and the positive effect on the trade war on Thai economy.
It looks like we're seeing some indirect impacts, at least with the stock market, the situation in the United States affecting countries and markets across Asia as well. So people are pretty concerned about the US-China trade war. That's the main reason, isn't it?
Yeah, I think investor, because these two economies are such a big economy in the global market, and financial market, they can be volatile. So I think we can see some time overreaction in the financial market. But when we are talking about economic impact, GDP impact, these tend to be more real sector impact. So when we're talking about the current financial volatility at the moment, it has many factors. Some people attribute to the Fed policy interest rate hike. Some people attribute to the trade war. So there are variety of factors affecting the financial market at the moment. not just trade war.
What about the economic outlook for next year? Are there any risks that you are concerned of?
I think we try to monitor closely the situation in terms of the global economy, the impact on whether Chinese economy continue to do well. Right now, we rely a lot on China in terms of the tourism, in terms of our export. So I think the situation that is happening in China, the Chinese economy, some latest economic indicator coming from Chinese economy show some moderate slowdown. So I think that we have to follow the situation closely. And also the oil price, for example, the Thailand being the net import country of oil, energy. So if the rising oil price, that would have some impact on the Thai economy. But oil price have a negative impact, but the commodity price tend to move along with the oil price. So if now oil price increase, that may lead to the farm agricultural product prices increase. So I think we have to look at the overall impact on the economy for in terms of the oil and commodity prices. But so we have to be aware of the energy prices in the future. And so I think in these, the global economy, the oil price are the two things that we have to monitor going into next year.
And recently, IMF, International Monetary Fund, has revised down the figure of growth, the global growth already next year. So that's something we have to watch out for.
But they revised upward for the growth for Thailand.
For Thailand, well, it's
so
looking
I think
good.
You can see that foreign institutions, they also have a better confidence on the growth of the country.
But then again, in Thailand, some of the concerns that people have been talking about is the increasing household debt. What's the current situation?
At the moment, the household debt, according to the Bank of Thailand figure, is about 77% of GDP, the latest number, declined from 81% of GDP. When we talk about debt to GDP, household debt to GDP, so we can see the gradual decline. And so I think in the future, we can expect the household debt to gradually be lower in the future. I think when we talk about the household debt, we have to look into the component of the household debt. If one really look into detail of the household debt structure in Thailand, you will find that actual consumption loan by the household sector is quite low. Credit card and personal loan account for only 6% of the total household debt. So we can see that most of the household debt in Thailand collateral debt like housing loan, vehicle loan, and 17% of the household debt focus on the business loan. A lot of businesses in Thailand are unincorporated, not a company, not individual doing business and borrow money from the financial institution. When individual borrow money, it automatically counts as a household debt, even though that debt is used productively for their business. So I think these are the factors that we have to consider. Last issue about household debt is when we look at the NPL of the household debt. I think the latest figure NPL of the household debt is only 3%, quite low, and on par with the overall NPL in the financial sector. I think overall NPL in the financial sector is about 2.9, NPL in the household debt 3%. So I think we are still in a good the household sector in a good financial standing at the moment. But of course, we have to be aware that if the household debt continue to rise in the future, which according to what we have seen in recent years, not the case, then we have to be aware of that.
I see. But then again, in order to drive domestic consumption with a household issue, this is perhaps some of the reasons putting off people from spending. But the government is coming up with a number of measures. We have the low income earner program, and you have a lot of people registered already. Is there any figure as to how many people have enrolled in this program?
We have about 11.4, at the moment we have about 11.4 million people, or about 17% of the Thai population at the moment register as a low income earner. the criteria, one of the big criteria is the income per year. We target those with income per year less than 100,000 baht a year. Or there are many criteria. I'm just mentioning one criteria: income per year less than 100,000 baht. So we have about 11.4 million people register, and also we also recently opened the second round of registration. So we can expect some additional people, low-income group, to register under the low-income registration program. Now, I think when we talk about the rationale of the program, we have to think that the way that the government would aim social welfare program, we should be targeted. In the past, some of the policy may not be well targeted to help the poor people. Now we can use the technology to create a big database of the low-income group, and we can focus our resource, the money, the budget, to help the low-income group through social benefit, that they can upgrade their living condition through this program. And also, we are not only giving them the benefit, social benefit. We have to train them, providing them with the opportunity to upgrade their skill, their income earning capacity. So the government, the ministry introduced the second phase of the social welfare program, that to train the 11.4 million people on a voluntary basis. If they would like to be trained to upgrade their skill, they can join the program. And I think 6 million people already involved in this training program. So I think we can expect that in the future, as we all know, the economy is driven by human capital. So if we can have a better skilled worker, more capacity to earn income, I think that could sustain the growth in the medium term.
All right, Khun Prasit, thank you very much for joining us today. สวัสดีค่ะ That has been a closer look at the economic directions and how policymakers are focusing to support growth over the long run. And that's it for today's edition of Be My Guest. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Cholapansa Narula. See you next time. สวัสดีค่ะ